Can I ask how it feels to be on the verge of your birthday, of your next birthday?
There's Yatra happening tomorrow with Vajraprabhu in Gasparilla in
What?
Tampa. Yeah. So I'm gonna go for the Yatra. So it's like the party is already there.
And this podcast is all about Lord Jagannath.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like working out perfectly. And we boarded on, and then as soon as the plane was on the runway, clear to take off, it's going, and I'm sure the pilots have their call-outs as they do when they take off. Devotees have their call-outs too. Namaste.
From Alachua, Florida, this is Nectar Talks.
In collaboration with Krishna.com.
And in service to our Bhakti community.
We're still getting used to the technology. We are up to date, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa. Ananta Vallabha Prabhu, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to this episode with you. We have some things in common that I want to get into. And really, this podcast is about you and I reminiscing on this 2023 Jagannath Puri Kartik Yatra that we did, and it was really incredible. It was my first time in Puri, and Amrita Kelly, you've never been to Puri.
I've never been, so this is really cool.
Yeah,
This is exciting
so you're
for me.
a great person to have on this conversation too. But before we get into it, let's just introduce you to our listeners and our viewers a little bit. Tell us about your background. I know you grew up in India, and right now you're studying aviation, and you've lived at Krishna House. But where were you living in India when you grew up?
In India, I grew up in Pune. That's a huge community just south of Mumbai, and there, and also I grew up in Dubai as well. Most of my childhood is split between those two places. When I was 5, my parents, they started practicing bhakti, and I started tagging along with them as well. And and I think I really took bhakti seriously when I finally came to the US. And there's always a thing that you just grew up with, but coming to the US, being alone, dealing with all the different, things that are there, and realizing it's not there. Right. And then going seriously into my bhakti, I think that happened for me when I moved to the Krishna House. I moved into the ashram and started, attending the morning program, going through their system in the Krishna House, and that's how I took my sadhana seriously and got really into bhakti through that. And I was at Santa Fe College over there for some time, and then afterwards served full-time in the ashram for around 3 years or so. And then after that, I moved out, and now I thought I'll get into aviation.
Yeah. How did that come up?
That, honestly, it was very random. Every young boy has like a thing that, I want to be a pilot one day. But it was more so like I finished the ashram, and then I was like looking as to what career I can focus into, and I was just literally Googling what careers I can do, and things. And my sister brought it up, actually. She was like, what do you think of being a pilot? And I was like, yeah, it seems like a good idea. Like, I was also seeing, the finances and like all the other aspects, and it seemed it could work out. So then I was like, it was a good prospect afterwards. I was like, okay, I'll go for it. And it's more of like an acquired taste now, really liking it now, yeah.
As opposed to me, who was jumping off staircases with an umbrella in my hand when I was 5 years old, trying to mimic Mary Poppins.
Earlier you were saying that like you love adrenaline, that you like Harinam and Kirtan, and so that kind of like little bit of intensity with flying is really appeals to you. And I thought that was really notable to pick something that is in line with your
just nature.
Yes. It's exciting to you, in other words.
So what phase of your aviation training are you in now?
Training, currently I'm working on my commercial single-engine aircraft, all the technical terms, but single-engine commercial license, and that I finished the training for it, and currently I'm on a little break, quote-unquote, where I'm waiting to get scheduled for my exam with the FAA.
Okay. So you already have your private pilot license and your instrument rating?
Yes, my instrument rating and
well on the way.
Yeah, almost a year of just intense grinding to get the hours and the training and everything. But I've been really appreciating that 1 year.
That's great. That's a lot of fun. Okay, and of course you and I also have the connection of being disciples of His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and we usually see each other at the Vyasa Puja celebrations every year here in Alachua. And I was so excited when I knew you were going to be on the Yatra.
I was just curious, when you moved over, you said you moved alone. Like, did you come to Gainesville knowing there was a devotee community here?
Actually, no. It's quite interesting because I moved initially to Chicago, and I was there at Illinois Institute of Technology. Okay. And I was 17. I left, my family, and I was like, oh, America, the land of the free. And it really got into my head, and I really wanted to explore different things, and finally away from my parents. Bhakti is not necessarily imposed on me and stuff, and I was just exploring, and it burnt me out in the sense that I didn't really do well in many aspects in my life. And so then that low point was like, you know what, I grew up with a philosophy. I grew up with a certain philosophy that it basically tells you how to get out of these situations. Right. And let me actually just practice it, And that's when I knew about Gainesville, obviously Krishna House being this powerful student center, and New Santa Fe College was a community college that could accept me. And so then I came, and just through that, support structures of the devotees there.
Yeah, it's really cool that you got to have your experience of sort of owning your own Krishna conscious process.
For sure, yeah.
It's really a gift that you gave yourself, honestly, right?
Yeah.
And how long were you, just one more, how long were you in Chicago before you came here?
It was a year and a half in Chicago, and then afterwards I moved to Gainesville 2017. I moved to Chicago 2015. Yeah.
Okay. I'm ready. Take me to the Dom.
I am ready. Yeah,
let's get into it.
I think this is a really interesting experience or experiment because I've been wanting to go on a yatra and just go to a holy place for that full immersive experience my whole life, and it finally happened with this Jagannath Puri Yatra, and now it's been several months since we were there, and there's so much to look back to, not only remembering the Yatra, but how has it played into our life, what kind of takeaways have we gotten from it. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this, all three of us. So one really interesting point that was made during one of the lectures during the Yatra is that the Yatra actually begins when you first thought about going on the Yatra.
I remember that. Yeah.
So tell us, what was the beginning of the Yatra for you?
The beginning of the Yatra, I'll be honest, as I said earlier, I was in this 1 year where there's like intensive training happening. And Radhanath Maharaj came to Alachua in, I think in the summer, in end of June. And when he came, it was so inspirational. Like, we have a set number of days we can take leave from our training. And I was like, I took leave for those days when Maharaj came to Alachua. And it was so inspirational. Like, Maharaj almost gave class every day of the week, he came on Sunday, he left on Saturday, and every day of the week he gave a class. And for me personally, I've never experienced that. hearing Maharaj speak every day of the week other than the Yatra, and which I used to go when I was smaller as a child. And so then that just like was inspiring me. I was like, I want to go this year on the Yatra, especially it was the first Yatra since COVID that they opened up since COVID happened. And and for me as well, it had been 10 years since I went to a Yatra. Last one I went on was in 2013.
Okay.
And this is 2023.
10 years,
yeah. And that's when I, started planning for it. And just that inspiration when Maharaj came to Alachua, I was like, I want to go on a Yatra. I want to go on that Yatra. So that was the start for me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, for me, there's two beginnings to my Yatra, I guess. One was when I was at the temple one day and Mother Madhumati was picking flowers for the deities, as she always does in the mornings. And we were catching up, and she told me she was going on this Yatra, and she's like, you should go. And I was like, wait a minute, I actually have vacation, and this is I've been wanting to go for a long time, but it was the first time that I could see things were lining up and it was actually doable. So, but yeah, that was such an interesting point when they said that the Yatra begins when you first think of going. And it's true that it was quite a meditation ever since I knew I was going to go, just anticipating. And that made me realize that, the intent that you put into a particular devotional activity can magnify that activity by so much. And I really experienced that with this Yatra, and, because, I was meditating, and then I realized I couldn't get rid of my work trip right after the Yatra, and so I literally went there with my suitcase and a work suitcase. And by the time I went, I was in so much anxiety, I didn't want to go anymore.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was so stressed out. And also because of just the travel, but when I got to my even the first flight going to Frankfurt, I was sitting to an Indian gentleman from Orlando who knew everything about Vaishnava. And then Frankfurt to Delhi, I was sitting next to a young man, also an Indian gentleman who knew so much, and he was educating me on a lot of history between the Hindu-Muslim conflicts and all that. And then when I finally got to Delhi to make my connection to Bhubaneswar, that's another beginning of the Yatra, because there were like 10 devotees and I knew most of them.
Yeah.
And this is when I was like, I'm finally gonna just lay down, because I don't sleep on airplanes. Right. And then I was like, no, I'm not gonna, I want to be with all these devotees. And then more came, and next thing you know, we're doing Mangal Artik, holding photos of Tulsi on our iPhones, doing Mangal Artik. They had me lead Guru Puja.
On the airplane?
Well, no, but then we got on the airplane.
So sweet.
And so, when I pre-flight an airplane, I always sing the Nrsingadev prayer. And for the first time in my life, as we were taxiing to take off from Delhi to go to Bhubaneswar, everyone behind me, all the passengers are singing Nrsingadev prayer, and I was like, the miracles are starting. I knew this was gonna happen. So, anyways,
I'll tell you that happened I went from the U.S. I went to Pune, and then from Pune we caught a flight to to Bhubaneswar, and same thing over there. It was so amazing. We were like sitting, waiting at the gate, and there's gathering of devotees coming in, and for me, I grew up in Pune, so actually seeing devotees that they saw me as a little child, and it was like, oh, Hare Krishna Mataji, it's just so like after so many years seeing them, they're just coming, and it was just slowly you start. It's only devotees on this plane, I guess. And we boarded on, and then as soon as the plane was on the runway, clear to take off. It's going, and I'm sure the pilots have their call-outs as they do when they take off. Devotees had their call-outs too. Namaste. You know?
So it was happening on every airplane. I mean, if that's not a testament to what Srila Prabhupada gave the world, I mean, just it's happening on every flight going into... And actually, even just being in the Delhi airport, there's devotees everywhere. Everywhere. I'm like, I want to say hi to you, say hi to you. So, all right, let's move on. So, that's how the yatra began for us. Tell us a little bit about what you remember of, just to give, because, you know, some people have never been on a yatra, like I'd never been on a yatra. And it's really interesting how well these things are organized. So let's give our audience a little bit of an insight on what they can expect if they were to ever sign up for a yatra like this. Yeah. You know, what was a day in the yatra like as far as the organization and how many people were there?
Yeah, well, I think it was the biggest yatra that that ISKCON Chopati has ever organized, and it was 10,000 devotees. And over the years, they started doing these yatras since the early 90s. Maharaj used to just take devotees, you know, from Chopati, go to different dhams in India, and started with 50 people or even less, and then so it kept growing. Remember the first yatra I went to was in South India. It was a South Indian yatra where basically going at all the spots Mahaprabhu stopped at. We started at Tirupati and then, you know, worked our way south, and that was probably, I remember it was a big deal with 2,000 devotees, and everyone was like, oh wow. And just since then it's just like, you know, growing, and this last 2023 was 10,000 devotees. And I think Maharaj was joking in the lecture. He was saying that he was talking of the pastime of Lord Jagannath appearing, and he was saying Mother Rohini was speaking to the queens of Dwarka about their Vrindavan pastimes, and the queens were eagerly listening. And we can kind of envision what that room must have been like, because there were 16,108 gopis and we're 10,000. But Mother Rohini didn't need a mic system.
But yeah, it was quite a view under that pandal. I mean, every day I would just always look all around and just see. And the mood of the devotees there, you know, I mean, everyone there is in such a dedicated, sincere, loving, Vaishnava, just mood of, just everyone wants to express the highest qualities when you're in a yatra like this. It's like, this is our time to really be the best Vaishnavas that we can, and you multiply that by 10,000. It was incredible. I mean, every exchange that I had with the devotees there were so sweet. Yeah. So what about just let's share a little bit about, for example, the facilities. You know, what did they have as far as kitchen, bathrooms? How did they handle 10,000 people? Water? How did all that work?
Well, I remember the first thing, like we were talking of the room, right? Like, you should envision like you coming. They set it up on the outskirts of Puri, not from the main city. So there's this land right next to the beach. So you walk in, and as soon as you walk in, there's this huge tent, basically, like the Festival of Holy Name. You know, we see that huge tent. Just multiply that by, I don't know, 100 or something. Huge tent. And as soon as you're walking in, there's these big red carpets, basically, on the floors that devotees have cushioned to sit on. They're sitting on that, and all the way in the front there's a stage, and Maharaj and the Kirtaniyas and everybody else sits over there, and there are these huge LED screens on the left side and the right side, so that since Maharaj is speaking, he's all the way in the distant. 10,000 devotees still want to see Maharaj, so they're seeing him on this huge screen over there. And the screen was incredible. They had like announcements playing on the screen, like, you know, devotees, please move forward, you know, like different things, like in the middle of the class, so that, you know, they don't have to announce it. So it's like right next to Maharaj's face, they used to have like these signs like, devotees, please move forward. And like you can see in the middle, like everyone just starts quietly like moving for 10,000 devotees moving forward, covering all the gaps. And so it was just like so intelligent, to accommodate amazing Shravanam or hearing for 10,000 devotees to come. And then along with that, and there was what we say, prasadam, right? That's the biggest, imagine cooking 2 proper meals for 10,000 devotees. And they in fact had, I'm sure you experienced that too with just the sleekness, you'd expect 10,000 devotees. How long's that line going to be?
It was just moving. Yeah, you didn't wait long at all.
At all, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so well organized, and the basic schedule was in the morning they would have Mangal Artik, japa, and Maharaj would come in for japa at a set time with his crew of what do you call that? The security crew. It's funny, you can see like they're all starting to talk, like, and then that's when all the brahmacharis, everyone's getting ready like to find their spot close to Maharaj to chant japa near him. But and then after that, they separated us into basically 10 groups of 1,000. We were in the Rangadevi group. They had kind of like by, I guess, language, So we were, I think, in the English-speaking crew, and we were assigned a particular, what was his name? Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Oh, I think, is he very jolly?
Yeah, he looks like a a Babaji a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But so yeah, he was our main guide, and then so in the morning they would have for each group where we were going to go that day, and then they would take us on a guided tour of different sites, and there was an amazing lecture at one of the sites every day by an amazing speaker. So, and they even would teach you what mood to be in beforehand. And so yeah, just really like spoon-fed. You didn't have to do anything. This was an all-inclusive spiritual experience.
Yeah, it was like so organized in the sense that they had this huge board in the land over there that split each group, and then in the evening, the previous night of the whatever is planned for the next day, they had put it on the board, like for each group. And so this group is going to go to these sites of visit, and that group is going to go to these sites, meet at this place. And each group, they had their own, WhatsApp group and like different things to like communicate. So using technology, using visuals and everything. So it was just, structured so perfectly. There were 10,000 devotees, but it was just there was just smooth flow like of things happening there. And yeah, I remember we were searching for the bathroom right over there.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way they have porta potties here. And then I look over, and there is like a whole
field.
It's like this. Just all these pipes that were, it was just like engineered so well. With like urinals and stalls. Everything was just built on the spot.
Wow.
And same for the water.
For water, filtered water.
I wanted to say we went to Govardhan Yatra in, I think it was maybe 2015. And that year they had this like train system for the prasadam where they were using like train tracks and they were pushing things on the train tracks. And I don't know if it was National Geographic, but someone came out and actually made a documentary centered around how this community is feeding these pilgrims. And that was the heart of the documentary, was the prasadam. And we had the same experience, because I was very nervous that there was 5,000 or 6,000 people. How are we going to feel how are we not going to feel swallowed up in our experience by so many that we're just like little ants moving and kind of not feel the intimacy that we're looking for as devotees with those relationships, but kind of reflecting what both of you are saying. And just think about the pre-planning, like that devotees have dedicated probably a year or more to making sure that these 5 or 6 days run the way they do, so that we can go to the Dham and feel like the heaviness has been completely lifted and that we can enjoy each other's association with ease. It's such a huge undertaking, and it is like amazing to think that's someone's meditation for a year or two, of how hard they work to make that experience possible.
Such a great point. How would you say, so we can reciprocate to those devotees who put so much time into preparing the yatra for us, what was your experience of some of the benefits that you got personally from having such a well-organized experience?
Honestly, so I landed, we came right off, the airplane from the US, and we're jet lagged. And I remember being so tired initially. But, just having these devotees have actually focused to take care of all the bodily needs, so that mentally we're prepared, so that in the evenings or through the day we can be absorbed in these different going to the parts of the Dham or sitting in the classes of Maharaj, and everything was so nurtured. You felt well fed. You're not worried about not having prasadam. You know that you have a bed to sleep on. You have all these important needs taken care of, that so that you have that focus and absorption. That's what I felt, especially having that jet lag and everything, and to actually slowly homogenize into the yatra, you could say.
I was so happy and surprised that I had my own little room, and I had no desire to even check my email. I'm a YouTube addict. Just all these daily activities that I do here back at home. I wanted nothing I didn't check my work stuff, and all I did whenever I was alone was listen to Chaitanya Charitamrita recordings and just look forward to being back with the devotees and chanting good japa and discovering this amazing land. What I found out, I didn't know, is that Jagannath Puri, out of all of the, Vrindavan, Mayapur, that is where, if I understood correctly, that is where Lord Chaitanya and his associates overall spent the most amount of time. And what's amazing about Puri is that everything is very, very close. So, what I've been saying all along is that I was literally walking the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita that I had grown up with. I was inside the scripture, and everything was right there. Places, I wrote it down because I want to make sure I could mention all of them, but the Gambira, where Lord Chaitanya had his ecstasies, that little room, that was just, every location had such intense potency, and so many deities. I really want to get into some of those experiences that we had, but I forgot what got me on track to that. But so tell us a little bit about some of the different sites that we got to see, and some of the deities, and what those experiences were for you.
We were going through Puri's. Usually the yatra as well is longer. It's 2 weeks longer because the dhams have that many sites to visit. But in Puri it was just a week long because Puri is a very intimate, small little city, and it's so nice in Puri that it's so close by, all these different amazing spots, you know, of where Mahaprabhu did his pastimes. You know, it's down one street, there's the Jagannath Temple, there's Siddha Bakul, where Haridas Thakur did his japa and his bhajan, and then right next to Siddha Bakul, I believe, was
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's
is there
house.
And I think it was also,
There's Sweta Ganga.
Sweta Ganga. So it was just down
like
that
all
line.
within walking distance.
Yeah.
So you just walk between.
Exactly.
The first 2 days of the yatra were we left from the Pandal area where all of our hotel rooms were, and we just did walking Harinam to all the places. I mean, this included, the Siddha Bakul, the Gambhira, the Jagannath Temple, Gundicha. Well, Gundicha maybe was a little bit further, but so many places were right there.
It's very close by, so that's what I really liked about in Puri as well. And for me, those classes that we had, you know, going into those for each group. So in our group, we used to go, you know, 1,000 devotees still in one area. It was very quick darshan, but those classes were it was such an absorbing thing to sit down in those temples or wherever that point was and hear about those places and really absorb in those things.
And they prepared you, for example, they prepared us for seeing the Tota Gopinath deity, which is the deity in which Lord Chaitanya merged when he left this planet. And so they're telling you there's going to be a pujari there and he's going to be moving you along. You might not get more than 2 seconds to see this deity because there's so many people there. And so they literally prepped us on how to make sure we got that imprint in our mind and how to carry that with us after seeing the deities. And many of the deities, it was like that very, very quick darshan. But that, I think that made it even more special.
Did you have a favorite experience or like a favorite, you know, you were talking about the lectures, maybe something that just touched you?
Touched me the most was, honestly, for me was, so one thing I wanted to do was do Harinam in Jagannath Puri. You were mentioning I like Harinam, and that was just as we were saying, we were walking from one point to the other point and we did Harinam. I was just making it a point that I was with the Harinam party the whole time, you know, playing mridanga, playing kartals, just, you know, being in support of that. And
leading. He led a lot
I
of the
can't even imagine how that would feel, doing Harinam in Jagannath Puri itself.
That was another thing. Like, we were doing Harinam on, you know, the Rath Yatra road, and that's where Mahaprabhu did Harinam, you know, dancing on the same very streets. And so that, for me, it was, and it's also just, it just absorbs, it protects you, you know, the Harinam protected me just, you know, so that I don't get distracted here, because naturally, you know, your mind is this fickle thing that's running everywhere, but, you know, the Harinam protected me going from one point to the other point to the other point. So that was a nice memory that, you know, and it reached a point that, you know, the organizers of the Harinam, it felt nice that they, you know, it was like, they felt like I need to be there for the Harinam, or you know, it's like
became your service.
It became my service.
Whoa,
exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, without any plan or anything, it just became my service. So that's what I felt like, I was serving the yatras. I remember those organizers, they were like, "Oh, Prabhu, could you go get the mic system?" and like stuff. And I was like, "Yes, Prabhu." You know, it's just like I felt like I'm serving the yatra rather, you know, that aspect.
I enjoyed when we got to the ocean bath. So this is the ocean in which Lord Chaitanya carried Haridas Thakur's body when he passed away, I believe. And, you know, even Lord Chaitanya had many pastimes in this sacred ocean. So they, again, prepped us that, you know, this is not any ocean experience. You have to be very reverential. No playing around, and I like to surf. Those waves were huge.
Perfect.
They were perfect surfing waves. So Ananta Vallabha and I are there together, and there's no surfing, no body surfing. Like, it's just, so I'm just chanting the Hare Krishna mantra the whole time, nonstop. And we're in there and we're just very meditative with a group of really nice devotees.
Yes.
We did all that. And then after a while, we decided we're going to come back, and, I may have caught a wave, but I was just making my way back. And so we confirmed that wasn't playful. It was just making our way back to the beach.
Yeah, I agree.
No, but it was really, it was amazing. What I thought was really special is that I never had a particular connection with Lord Jagannath. But obviously, this is the land of Lord Jagannath, and I fell in love with Lord Jagannath. And to this day, I am in love with Lord Jagannath. I didn't think of Krishna in his Krishna form much at all while we were there. It was just Lord Jagannath. And so I thought that was so special how, Krishna's different incarnations, pastimes, moods really imbibe the location.
Yeah.
There's so many stories I could get into with, my personal interactions with Lord Jagannath while I was there. It was just, it was amazing. So let's jump forward a little bit, and we're back in our home in America now. It's several months later. What are some of the, takeaways that you've taken from the experience, or even I'd like to take it a step further. I feel like I've really gotten to witness and experience spiritual energy versus material energy in this whole Yatra experience, both going and coming back and seeing how much, life necessities, activities, the environment can take over, and seeing those different energies at play.
Right.
How has that translated for you?
Yeah. Coming back was, I remember it was just that sense of, so the training again that I'm in for flight school is very fast paced, and you start with a group of students that are starting with you, and there's it's a very subtle sense of comparison, like where everyone's at in their journey to be pilots, and I was like, I'm going to take this break because I want to go for Yatra and get that absorption and bhakti. And then when I came back, you can notice your mind, oh, I missed out, in the sense that materialistically, you're thinking, oh, the friends that I started with, they're gone way ahead now, and I took this little pause to go on this Yatra. That mind starts, chasing again. I was noticing that element coming back. But at the same time, to reconcile, I was saying that, whatever I'm doing in my activities, being a pilot or, whatever vocation, what's the real point of all of it? It's somehow or the other be absorbed in Krishna Katha, and being in the service of the devotees, chanting the holy names, because that's the real goal, and everything else is just to fit our psychophysical natures so that we can have that goal in mind. And that was my realization. So it's so crucial that I made it a point to go on that Yatra, so that it reminded me as to why am I being a pilot, or why am I doing, it's so that I have that as my main focus, hearing and chanting. And that was a main focus, just a reminder when I came back, because your mind is just, again, I don't know, I always bash my mind, but I need to give it some love too. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really a fantastic realization. And I also, one of the takeaways for me when it comes to that was that I think if you were to track a bhakti practitioner who just stays in the West or wherever, compared to one who goes to a holy dham or a yatra type of experience, but in the holy dham once a year. I mean, if you were to put that on a graph, it would be night and day. I mean, the nurturing and just the expediting that progress. That was a big realization for me. You know, if I can somehow do this once a year, it would be so good. Because yes, we do come back into the material energy, and we have, and it's fine. We have to carry on with our lives, and you know, in a sense, it's unrealistic to think that you can live the yatra life in your daily life. So just having that regularity of going back, I think, would be amazing.
Yeah. For me as well, it's just like those it's so crucial to develop those impressions in the consciousness, so that at the time of death, there are these impressions that come back, you know, and that's these yatras, dham, you know, making that journey. It leaves an impression, you know, in your consciousness. Doing the austerities in the yatra, you know, and all those different things. There's all about leaving that impression.
Speaking of austerities, so in my room, there's all these knobs for the hot water. And I'm like,
multiple knobs.
Yes, you got to turn on the switch, and then you got to, and I'm like, I can't figure this out. I don't know if it's working, not working. So I'm like, cold showers, yes. I'm all in. I was loving the cold showers. And then finally, my wife's family actually, they all came to be with me, which was so sweet. And my, I guess she's my sister-in-law, she came with her husband to my room, and I was like, yeah, I haven't figured that out. And she turns around, she's like, you just had to wait longer. So I had my first hot shower on the last day. But yeah, I think that, the austerity, you know, literally having so much anxiety about the travel part of it, and then being rewarded with, 20 devotees doing Mangal Artik in the airport. Yeah, Krishna absolutely reciprocates in so many ways when you just go on these efforts.
I've been thinking about that, like how, so last year we went to, where did we go? We went with Danya and Bali to Govardhan Eco Village, to Mumbai for the Flower Festival, and then we went to Vrindavan, we went to Rishikesh. Oh my gosh, we're taking our family.
Yeah, that was a big trip.
It was a big trip. So I remember leading up to it, I had this mood, like, first it was, we have to go. This is so cool. We're making this happen. We're going to do this. And then as the date started to approach, it was like, I don't care if we go or not, because this is going to be hard, you know, like we have very little kids and the trip and the traveling in between. Right. And so I was thinking in my mind, I can imagine, because I've been there before, some of these places, I can imagine how wonderful it will be. I can imagine how purifying it will be. So if I don't get to go, or if we cancel this, just having imagined it will have been good enough. But that's not true, actually, for me. Because what I experienced was that, like, the Dham is alive, actually. It's alive. And so we have, like, our imagination cannot capture what Krishna can do inside of us when we just, and I don't think it's just the Dham. Like, I was thinking the same thing about, for example, giving class is something that is really scary for me, because I feel like a new devotee, basically. But so I can imagine how good it will feel after I give a class to have connected with devotees and to have connected with the scripture. I can imagine that, and I can be satisfied with that. But it's not the same as actually doing it. Right. And so I think, like, And the thing is that at the end of this year, when I was reflecting on my year, because that happened when we went to India, it was at the very beginning of 2023. So by the end of the year, that powerful sensation of the spiritual energy had really waned. And it was more of just like the daily life, world events that are going on, and just feeling like I don't know how good my year was. I'm just feeling like we're just we're just making it through. But it's like I forgot that how when we do things like this, when we put forth, our effort in these small austerities, that the amount that Krishna reciprocates is just, it's like a flood that can carry us in through the next year. Yeah. And that we deserve to sort of have that adventure and to give that to each other and to ourselves, Yeah.
It's an amazing adventure. Gosh. Yeah. We're so lucky.
Honestly.
We're so fortunate. I don't know what else to say.
Well, I'm just thinking about you body surfing.
I did not.
Lord Chaitanya
I was
swam.
making my way back to the beach.
Yes.
That's it.
But it's quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to.
Yeah.
I mean, Sita Bakul, Haridas Thakur. Yeah, having heard these stories so many times, having heard them, and then for it to, like you said, it's alive. It comes to life is a very, very powerful experience. And here outside of India, we're living in a transplant of Krishna consciousness and the Dhams, and it's obviously incredible, but to go to the original source just opens it up. I mean, we were at the temple, which is the birthplace of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And they had us there right at the time of the morning program. And we walked in, there was a kirtan going on, and I heard an original Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa with that lineage of the Gaudiya Math, and then to chant after that, feeling so connected to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his father Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and just meditating in his birthplace on, we have a father-son relationship in our disciplic succession. Like, how amazing is that? Two divine personalities who are father and son, and we are part of that lineage. They are our family, and to be there and just picture Lord Jagannath coming in his cart and not wanting to move until, let me see my baby. It's amazing. The Gundicha, we could go on and on, right?
There was one experience I had during the Yatra was, it was so, structured that, just since I had the experience of what a Yatra was in the past, I knew that there's so many things happening. So I thought that, before the Yatra starts, I came like a half a day earlier. So me and my mother, we went for darshan in the Jagannath temple, and we went, and it was actually a very beautiful darshan. We got to be in the temple for some time, we did a few rounds, and we were able to see Lord Jagannath, and then afterwards it came out, and after that we didn't have the urge to go again inside to take darshan, just because we got that, and then the classes itself that Maharaj was speaking, it was, there were 3-hour long classes, and he just brought Jagannath, and he brought the pastimes just to life over there, that me and my mother, we were we didn't want to go again. And there was only one time we were thinking that we could go. We were actually planning it out. So the classes started at 6 p.m. in the evening, I think.
It was 5.
5 p.m. And so then there's usually a huge line to enter the Jagannath temple. And we were thinking, if we go right after lunch, so leave at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and that's the special thing of Lord Jagannath's temple, is that there's no schedule for the deities inside. They in fact dress the deities while the altar is open. Wow. So you'll actually see the pandas standing on Lord Jagannath, fixing the turban, or just, they're doing the offerings all open, and then the only time they close is for 2 hours early in the morning for demigods to come to see.
Oh, that is too cool.
Wow.
But,
Whoa.
so yeah, we thought like
Whoa,
if
I
we
love that.
yeah, if we leave right at like 1 o'clock or so, the lines, we can make the lines and then somehow get darshan, and then as soon as we get darshan, we can come back for the class, And we were going, you stood on the line. For some reason that day, it was just longer. Everything was just like, it was just, things were not happening. We stood in the line. We thought we paid a panda so that we could like get into a shortcut, all these different schemes, And we went in, but that line was also long. And then there was this unfortunate like altercation that happened between like our group of devotees and like some other pilgrims over there. There's like an argument, and it was like a little bit, this, and then I was just noticing like, that when you're not really trying to stay with like, what we say, that flow of grace that's there, that's provided and set up, like the mercy is not there, like if you're just, what we say, if you're just like trying to serve and be part of the, what's given and serve with the devotees that you're with, that's when that mercy comes.
Wow. So you're saying going off on a side trip to see Jagannath, you didn't feel the mercy flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was like all these like, there's things happening. And then in the end, it became so late that it was like becoming 4. And then we were like, oh no, like, and we were still outside the temple, and we were like, and then, the pastime of Srila Prabhupada, when he went to the Vrindavan parikram, and then they were given 2 options. You can go see the dhams, or you can sit and listen to Bhaktisiddhanta speak, And then majority of people left to see the dham, but then Prabhupada sat over there listening to Bhaktisiddhanta, and Bhaktisiddhanta observed that and was very happy with Srila Prabhupada, and that was coming back to us that it's more important that we go back and listen. We
listen. We go to the Dham to hear from people rather than just bathe in the rivers or see the sights.
Exactly, yeah. And so at that point, we were like, we're just leaving. We left. We just like skipped the line. And I remember we were leaving the line, and then people were just like, yeah, what are these people doing leaving the line darshan? But like we was just, we can really enter the dham when we're with the devotees and trying to, be part of the service like that. That was one realization I remember like starkly coming in my memory.
Well, I thought that was a pretty good recap of the Yatra.
Yeah. And I'm curious if you have anything to part with us, like if there's anything on your heart about your life, or about like something that means a lot to you in Krishna consciousness, that you're sort of your mindset or your goal or.
Right. Honestly, I just genuinely seek the prayers and blessings of all the devotees, and just what I hope is that I can just be an instrument of service. This is a Alachua community, such a big but dynamic community, but just I can hope and serve, have a nice service attitude, like, with the devotees, and just I hope for the prayers and blessings to do that, and in small way, big way, whatever way, just to serve.
That's a perfect answer.
Yeah, more and more, I feel like we find that the secret is our relationships with each other, isn't it? How we are with one another. Thank you so much, Ananta Vallabha. This was, and I have to say, like, we cannot always go on pilgrimage, right? Life is there, and sometimes we just can't. But listening to you two talk, so I had these notes in front of me a little bit before we began talking. I see the names of the pilgrimage places, and I'm like, okay. But sitting here listening to you talk about it did something for me. It was a meditation for me, and so I think that I just wanted to reflect that concept of aliveness is there when devotees are talking, just like you said, when devotees are giving, speaking, and we're listening, that there's aliveness there. So I'm sure that, you took some other people with you to Puri just now. I hope you took me there, honestly.
Yeah, no,
so thank you.
I was also like, cause I was sharing earlier how I was concerned, like being a little nervous coming in, to a podcast setup and everything. And one of the big nervous parts for me was like, staying almost a few months now since the Yatra happened. And so I wanted to give it justice and, everything. But just in this sweet conversation, it just came back to life, That's
that was my biggest goal as well when I left to come back home, is I just want to keep this alive as long as I can. And I'm very grateful to you and to you that we got to do this together, because it definitely brought it back to life.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ananta Vallabha.
Krishna, thank
Hare
you, Amrita
Krishna,
Kelly.
Namamrita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And thank you so much, Manoram, who's behind the camera, making all of this happen.
Manoram, 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 Manoram.